I'm really serious. I think that's a good idea.
Just talking? Well, what's the show about?
It's about nothing.
No story?
No, forget the story.
You gotta have a story.
Who says you gotta have a story?
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon.
There is no spoon.
I'll tell you what it's worth. Not a damn thing. It's a waste of time.
Initiate countdown. T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Initiating probability drive. Punch it, Chewie.
Wait, I should have had you do the Chewie impression. There we go.
Alright, so anyways, welcome to Frivolous Fandom with Mike and Kev. As always, I am Mike.
And as always, I am Kev.
And we're going to get in some really fun nerd stuff today. We have a special guest beaming in.
Yeah, we're beaming this dude in all the way from South Carolina. This is our first remote guest. Guest, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, I'm Nick. Huge fan of things in general.
As I say, not
Fair
of
enough,
ours.
Fair enough.
I've heard what you say behind our backs.
Today, our topic is going to be the spectacularly senseless Sci-Fi Extravaganza.
Now, Nick, why are we covering the senseless Sci-Fi Extravaganza? I believe you coined it.
All right, so for one, senseless because, well, there's all sorts of different kinds of sci-fi. There's no real ground rules for making sci-fi as long as it's fun.
Don't tell the Flame War people that.
Yeah, don't tell that to, like, the blog sites or the discussion threads. But definitely.
I mean, there are a lot of things that, like, bug people about sci-fi as well, but we don't really have to get in... Well, actually, we do have to get into that because that's, like, our job. And speaking of, how do you guys really expect to, like, get off of Earth with, like, only, what was it, 3 stages to your rocket?
Improbability drive, right?
Dude, did you not hear how forceful my was? Could you even comprehend the power that I was generating?
And we had not only 1, but 2 Wookiee co-pilots. So we are just fine, thank you.
We had a Wookiee co-pilot and then a Wookiee co-pilot that was dropped on his head. What kind of a Wookiee noise is that?
That's what that was. That wasn't actually him responding. That was him falling out of his seat.
Which is interesting. I mean, if we're in space, how am I falling onto the ground? But, you know, it's funny that you try to poke holes in our sound effect blast off.
And our little sci-fi skit.
Because it kind of is going to lead into a bulk of what we want to talk about today. For instance, what makes good science fiction and, you know, how realistic does it really need to be? Because it's kind of a paradox of a phrase, really. Because you have science, which implies reality. Because that's what science is trying to do, uncover reality. And then you have the word fiction, which I believe means fake.
It could be.
So it's real fake stuff.
Hey, that's only a theory.
Yeah, right? So the phrase itself is confusing.
Yeah, it's new. That's all I can really say about it. It's about the things that are going to be new some point in the future, hopefully, maybe.
Right.
Well, I mean, people don't remember often that Jules Verne was the first real science fiction guy.
Jeez.
I mean, think about it. Like, or did he write the Time Machine?
I just know him for isn't he the guy who wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? That's really long. And I've never even read that book, to be honest.
Yeah.
Full disclosure.
That's actually, I mean, a submarine was the first example of science fiction.
Like, how crazy would it be if
of.
we could go all the way down into the water? And
it was, Jules Verne also wrote something about hot air balloons as well. Before they were a thing.
Journey, around the world in 180 days?
80 days. Well, that's the Jackie Chan version.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
although Passport 2 was an actual character.
We won't get into it, but I'm pretty sure
Jackie Chan could fight people.
I'm pretty sure the Jackie Chan version is superior to anything Jules Verne. No, I'm just kidding.
Careful, English majors.
Yeah, right. So, in your guys' opinion, and obviously there's like 100 different subgenres of science fiction, but we'll start with you, Nick, since, this was your topic. What, in your opinion, makes good sci-fi, or like, what aspects of a science fiction movie do you really pick out and enjoy?
What do I enjoy?
Yeah. Like, regardless of you would call it fine art or whatever, just like, what is enjoyable to you when you watch a science fiction movie?
Oh, man.
What gets your gears turning?
No, I think seeing like something like huge and grand is what I enjoy in sci-fi.
Definitely understandable.
Michael Bay fan, huh?
Ouch.
Yeah, right? Man,
sorry.
Shots fired all the way across the country, bro. Jeez.
I'm sorry, the door was wide open. I had to take that shot.
If you
I agree, though, by the way. Like, people talking about how the Galactic Empire couldn't afford to make a Death Star. It's like, shut up, man. Who cares? I want to see a giant spaceship that is the size of a small moon.
Wait, you mean the empire that has sway over hundreds of thousands of planets and is oppressive?
Right, that's
and
a large tax pool right there. And I mean, you
clearly
gotta...
doesn't care about the less fortunate ones at all.
Yeah, right.
There's so much rebellion in the Galactic Empires because the taxes are through the roof.
Man, they raised the Death Star tax by 10% again. It's been like this for 20 years.
What do you mean we've been spending gajillion credits just getting things off of the ground to put into space to build the gigantic Death Star?
I mean, if you think about it, they probably have planets where they harvest all of their agriculture and just feed the Death Star with it. They're like, your planet doesn't get to eat.
Well, and for materials, too, like asteroids. Like, that's actually going to be a thing we're going to do if we survive as a species long enough.
It's a big if, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess that taken to its logical conclusion, Dead Space, the USG Shimura was cracking open planets.
Yeah, right. Yeah, did they ever explain what they were looking, like, I guess resources, quote unquote?
Well, I mean, think about it. There's a planet out there that is made of solid diamond. The same could be said probably of iron. The same could be said of magnesium, platinum, superconductors, which are very important for our computers.
Oh, so...
You know. Or heck, if we found a whole planet full of, like, water?
Oh, gosh. No, there's actually, in the center of our galaxy, a giant ocean, several orders of magnitude larger than the oceans of our planet, full of raspberry-flavored alcohol. And I'm not even kidding.
Man, I guess that's just how it shakes out when there's infinite possibilities. Like, this planet, that's just raspberry-flavored alcohol. Yeah, how do they know what flavor it is, though?
Because the same chemical that gives us the flavor of raspberry is like, that's what it is. It's that type of alcohol.
See, and then this is where, like, obviously I don't have the wherewithal to know this, but how do they know what the material of the planet is?
Because of spectrometry, which I could explain, but...
So, back to the topic at hand. Nick, I agree. I think...
I was totally going to call you out on that raspberry alcohol cloud in space, but apparently that's an actual thing.
Did you just Google it right
I was
now?
going to call you out on making that up, but I guess that's actually a real thing.
Oh yeah, it is.
Well, you know what? Call me up when we find the chocolate pudding planet. All right. But I definitely agree. There's a large part about science fiction is that you're seeing something grand, like you're flying out past the stars, whatever it is. I mean, at the least, most science fiction movies have some form of space travel. Obviously, that's not everything.
Howard Shore has got to be making the music for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Seriously, I want to hear some sweeping symphonies to make good science fiction. Anything else though that you can think of?
I mean, being a science buff myself, I do like when they delve into the science and try to make it semi-plausible.
Right. The pseudoscience, if you will, at times.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
There's a, and actually, I hate to bring these guys up again, but Extra Credits does a really good example of this for video games. But there's a fine line between pseudoscience and jargon.
Like, pseudo is like blatantly made up, kind of.
No. Pseudo is actually okay. Like you can, or maybe I'm hitting the terminology wrong, but like, there's one where you can run with it. Like, okay, yeah, that's garbage, but
right,
cool. And then there's others where anybody who actually knows anything about the field cringes.
It's just so bad. It's essentially a plot device.
Which,
it's so bad.
As a pre-med student, happens to me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, don't learn stuff about stuff, because then the movies just get less enjoyable. I find that funny. Like, some people that are too smart just can't enjoy movies. I'm like, I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I'll never be that smart, so, but, Mike, what about you? What do you really enjoy to see in some good science fiction?
What's my one rule about my nitpicks with a story?
Just have it make sense within the story.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't have to be...
Oh, never mind.
You agree, Nick?
I would make sure it makes sense within the story. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't ask that it's realistic. I don't ask that anything's real. I ask that you stay consistent.
Right.
I was going to say that your major nitpick is that it's not based on Superman.
Somehow every cast, Mike's hatred of Superman gets brought up in like an organic way.
Yeah, it just
That's
happens
just how
to pop up.
all-encompassing your hatred of Superman is. In fact, we were looking at plot holes. We were looking at movie plot holes today because we were going to do a cast on it.
Yeah.
And we were just like, we found something on Superman. We're like, look, we can't even include Superman in the discussion because it's inherently a plot hole. That character.
It's not shooting fish in a barrel. It's tying the fish down.
It's grenading fish in a barrel for
It's
pizza.
tying the fish
Tying
down.
the fish to the end of the gun.
It's strapping it down to this one little target, putting it in a small box, dropping a stick of dynamite into the box, shutting the box, putting that in a cannon, and blowing it into a nuke.
And then you shoot the nuclear weapon into space.
Yes.
Back to the
Towards
sun.
the sun.
And that's what blows up the asteroid that saves the Earth. Yeah, so it definitely has to make sense. Like, of course, not time travel. Of course, traveling faster than light speed doesn't make sense.
Well, no,
but-
time travel too, because let's be honest, the actual the concept of going backwards in time doesn't mean you're going anywhere. It means you're rewinding the entropy of the universe.
Right.
All of it.
Right. Yeah. So it's
Although,
like...
combine time travel and faster than light travel, or at least light speed travel, I guess you could make a plausible way of figuring out faster than light travel, maybe, if you could rewind time at the same rate that you're traveling at
So
the
even
speed
though
of light or whatever.
Well,
so
no,
you
the whole
do
thing about
instantaneous.
faster than light travel is theoretically possible, but only if you can take the wormhole concept and find somewhere that's just beyond a light year and get there faster than a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's faster than light travel in foreseeable physics context. I'm sure if there are some physics majors out there who might be a little
Morgan
more up on
Freeman,
it.
if you're listening to this,
Yeah, like
we need you on the show.
I am a biology person. This is not my forte, but I'm forced to take physics for the MCAT, so I do have a relative grasp of this stuff. There's certain things you can't go into it thinking about. But my favorite one is that, like, if I kill my grandfather and I go back, I will cease to exist. Probably not, because if I've somehow found a way to put my matter in that world, I'm still there.
Mm.
It doesn't change. I mean, it's not as if that there's a linear relationship with it.
So you're like the Harry Potter way, where he goes back and sees himself and stuff. It's like,
yeah, why would that wreck anything? Like time, like the concept that time is this connected linear dimension is a fallacy. Time is just our measurement of entropy. It's like miles per hour to speed.
So you could also like.
is that what Doc said in Back to the Future when he's like, and then he draws the line?
Correcting. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nick?
You could also think of like time as self-correcting as well. That would also be like something that could account for the time travel paradox.
So time is like white blood cells, and you're like an organ. You go back in time, and time just finds a way to kill you off because it's correcting itself.
There's that theory. Like you could go back and try to kill time, but anything like the act of doing so would cause time as like almost like a sentient system to come after you specifically. Or
Is this like Final Destination?
Kind of. It's
exactly.
It's a very.
Only I think they referred to it as it was death that was coming for them, not time. Like time is coming for me.
Yeah. Well, it's a very animist perspective on how the universe works. Which, to be fair, is no less plausible than any of the stuff that we're going to talk about in about 10 minutes.
Another way that you could think of like the whole grandfather paradox, like if you go back in time, kill your grandfather, like then the corrections that it'll make is like he was never your grandfather, but you still went back in time and killed him anyways, thinking that he is your grandfather.
Or what about the paradox where you are your own grandfather, such as the case for Philip J. Fry?
And that makes him a super retard, which makes him...
In the hella realistic science fiction, the hard science fiction show Futurama. Oh man, I'm just kidding, by the way.
That's what made him immune to the brain aliens, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
because he was his own grandfather.
He was a special type of mentally handicapped.
It's just, that must be the most awkward scenario. If that could actually happen, that would be the most awkward thing.
Okay,
Where you are your mom's dad? Like, what?
I hope I'm not lynched for this. But
Or like Marty McFly.
In terms of the bare bones biological reasons that we are not inclined to procreate with any of our relatives, depending on how far back you went, it wouldn't be even that bad. Biologically. I'm biologically. I'm not talking about gross.
Oh, don't worry, man. It was only my great-great-great-great-great-grandmother.
I mean, once you've hit, like, 5 greats at that point, they're not genetically related.
Is that a hard number? It's gotta be 5. You're like, oh, man, 4? Ew! Is that a specific number?
Well, okay, forgive me. I'm actually running. I'm running the Punnett squares in my head right now.
So if you go 5 generations back, like, incest is totally chill.
Well, because from a genetic perspective,
questions you need to have answered for when time travel is possible.
First cousins, no bueno. Second cousins, third cousins, starting to get okay. Fourth cousins, fine.
All right, let's get this back into G-rated territory. So what are we talking about?
Genetic diseases. I'm not advocating incest.
What are we talking about? I imagine, by the way, this is somewhat how like science fiction writers. This has to be how their writing sessions go. They're like, it would be cool if like this one vague concept that I was reading about happened, and then they're like, well, if that happened, technically you could sleep with your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother and it'd be totally okay.
It's all just BSing until somebody comes with something golden, and then they all just take off.
That could work.
Well, that's why they all look so familiar. Like when you look back in the old photos.
I feel like I know them.
Looks exactly like you. Oh yeah, about that.
There is a funny story there. Well, it's not that funny actually.
Don't tell the little ones; it will scar them.
You're right. It's hard for even adults to wrap their minds around.
All right, so back to
the task at hand. You guys want to know what I like in science fiction?
Sure.
This is going to sound kind of boring and very traditional, but I like good characters. Because if you think about it, like, what was the movie I watched? What was the one that came out not so long ago where Matt Damon gets strapped?
Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
No, where Matt Damon gets strapped into...
Beverly Hills Ninja.
Elysium.
Oh, yeah, where Chris Farley gets strapped into a robot. That one. No, what was it called? Equilibrium?
Elysium.
No. Elysium, yeah. Like, Elysium had a lot of good effects. It was pretty grand.
Political commentary.
Political commentary, yeah, it was pretty overt. But, like, I just didn't care for any of the characters. I don't know.
Occupy Wall Street, the movie.
Like, basically, yeah.
Occupy Wall Street / immigration reform / Matt Damon's no longer friends with Obama, the movie.
Like, I just couldn't get attached to characters, so it's like, even though there were great effects...
Dunked on him too many times.
Like, even though...
So, like, yeah, I could see that being a problem.
Because I feel like sometimes science fiction does get into that. It gets so into the lingo and the concept, blah, 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 that, like, everything else kind of becomes milquetoast in comparison. Like, the characters really aren't that important.
Wait, did you say milk toast?
Yeah, milque. I vaguely think I read about that word. It doesn't mean kind of bland, is what I mean. Like, everything else in comparison.
Yeah. Well, and let's take Elysium. When you're intentionally trying to make thoughtful, thought-provoking narrative, you open yourself up to us criticizing every little inch of your sci-fi. So,
Right.
Here's the deal. A world where they are able to reconstruct somebody's face, there will be no poverty. There will be no disparity. Because if we have the ability to do that, we can alter matter. Energy becomes free. I mean, no matter how jerky or mean somebody is, the number of people in the bell curve that are generally decent human beings is going to outnumber them. And they're going to go, well, it's not going to hurt us. Let's just give them stuff. So there's really no... I mean, if you have that tech capability, there's no reason for
You just make,
anything.
like, an ear of corn and be like, here, eat this, or something.
Yeah, I mean, like, you go get matter from the universe, which they clearly have the capabilities to do if there's a floating space station with artificial gravity and facial reconstructive abilities.
Right.
To bring someone literally back from the dead, because I hate to break it to you, if half your brain is gone, you're dead.
So... Mike, thank you for taking that entirely too seriously, but I do agree with you.
Yeah,
the second
only
movie,
for Elysium.
Well, yeah, and it's not the only movie to have this, but it's like once you start trying to make serious commentary, it's like, okay, now your movie's gonna be judged based on different standards.
And you open the door to that.
But, so, to summarize, it sounds like we enjoy science fiction that is somewhat grand, with compelling characters, and physics and things that are at least consistent within itself. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have to be 100% scientific fact, like, to back up everything. Just be consistent. So let's then move on to what are the pitfalls of science fiction, and then sort of under that, how realistic do we think that the science fiction needs to be, if at all?
Well, I guess, like, they're the like common pitfalls that any story can run into, like unlikable characters or like a plot that doesn't make sense.
Right.
So we can just throw those all out the window. They don't matter. Like specific to sci-fi, I think.
Although I do agree with Mike because like
Michael Bay is the problem.
Equilibrium tried to be, or not, why do I keep calling that? Elysium tried to be realistic somewhat, and then all of a sudden it throws in this magic machine that can bring people back to the dead. It's like, you can't all of a sudden get super sci-fi. If that had been from the beginning...
Well, no, see, that was an indispensable part of their commentary. They were trying to make the argument that the United States is this glorious promised land compared to, say, Mexico, and that we were the people in Elysium because we're keeping these poor people out. There's some truth to that. A great deal of truth, actually, to the disparity thing. But no, we don't... To make that comparison is a total exaggeration.
But what I'm saying is, like you were saying, okay, wait, this machine has existed this whole movie?
Yeah.
Like, why is any of this happening?
Exactly.
So you can't do something like that and all of a sudden get wacky with it, and it doesn't fall in line with the rest of the story.
But that's where the purpose of the narrative overpowered the narrative itself.
Right.
Which, I mean, that's not a sci-fi pitfall. That happens.
That's just,
all the
storytelling pitfall in general. Nick, what about you? What do you think? What is something that you see often in science? At least, let's say modern day sci-fi, like past 10 years.
Sci-fi?
Yeah, like in the past 10 years, let's say. Just because I feel like our standards and like the more knowledge we've gained just from research over the years, like, you know, Star Wars doesn't need to be held to the same level of realisticness as something today, only because we've learned so much more about the way space works and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's, like, recent sci-fi, there's, like, you can just, like, click Guardians of the Galaxy. To avoid spoilers, there's this whole subplot about a huge, like, almost like intergalactic terrorism kind of deal.
Okay.
And, like, this guy has, like, this huge army, but, like, where does it all come from, almost kind of thing. Like, they introduce this character that has this huge army and, like,
Well, okay.
they built up to, like, the Infinity Stone reveal.
Yeah.
Which isn't really a spoiler because we know that the Thanos imperative is going to be their, like, next big kind of thing.
Yeah. They showed him, I think.
We're making a sci-fi podcast. Spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy kind of goes without saying.
By the way, any movie we mention by name before we start talking about it.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler.
I actually have an answer to your question, Nick, but it's from the Marvel
not from
universe.
the movie.
So your point is very valid.
Yeah, and that does get wonky, though, too, because you could say, oh, they have infinity planets that they can reach to pull this army from. Or did they specify as just Krees?
No,
they're
just
mercenaries.
never, like...
They're mercenaries.
Yeah.
Basically, they're... Yeah, they're... I forget which species they are, but they're like a grunt species.
Yeah, and see, that's so hard, and it's, you know, it's situations like that, where it's like, it can be any explanation. Just give me an explanation. You know what I mean?
Compared to Army, the Army they don't have like a full military. It's basically a small. It's like a brigade compared to, say, the whole army. So it's just they pop in and out of places, and it's like, okay, well, the good guys can't really mass their soldiers to go after them because they have a treaty with the other people, but they're still evil. So we basically have to sit there and wait for them to pop at us. And we can't. I mean, it's guerrilla warfare. It's the same as with all the others. The only difference is now that he has the Infinity Gem, he's a juggernaut. Insert explicative there. So,
yeah. There's also like things that don't like mesh well together in sci-fi is kind of a pet peeve of mine. Like
because
I know
you feel like
that
they're
George
pulling...
Lucas tried really hard
no.
to teach like the thing about the Force.
The cardinal sin.
I know that like hurt a lot of people deep down, like myself.
Yeah,
because if you just took it as, like, a standard for magic, which it was, that's fine. But, like, all of a sudden it's because these people have these biological things inside of them.
Right.
That make them very special indeed. It's just... That doesn't fit with the rest of, like, this thing. Like, Star Wars isn't about the technology.
And it intentionally strayed away from that, too.
Right.
It's not about, like, the technology and the spectacle, I guess. Like, Star Wars is, like, almost like Lord of the Rings, and kind of, it's about these personal stories of these people trying to triumph over an evil force, like the good versus evil.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's more of a journey and like a much more personal take on it. Yeah, I agree. Even though there's like crazy stuff going on as like in the background as the setting.
Well, it's the hero. I mean, it is the hero's journey, and we've already touched on that like 7 or 8 passages ago. But yeah, I do
agree. Yeah, it's like Star Wars. We didn't need a pseudoscience explanation because for the past 3 movies, you've never tried to do that. It's like we don't need that for this, and just the way the story is told. It's like we never needed that. and then you just gave us a poor explanation at best.
Well, and how cool would it have been had Anakin, like, Qui-Gon goes, whoa. Obi-Wan, who's not cool, he's not really in tune with the Force, goes, what are you talking about? And Qui-Gon's like, no, just trust me. And they get to the council, and Yoda and Mace Windu are like, whoa. Although this might not be a good idea.
You watched that one, like, everything that was wrong with Star Wars video, didn't you?
Yeah,
I didn't.
Again...
I'm sure there was a lot.
Yeah.
Now, was it, like, all the movies? Or just the prequels? Because obviously the old ones have things that are wrong with them, too.
He has them... there's one glaring incident that happened somewhere in the beginning of Empire Strikes Back that we're all thinking of. Which is funny considering the discussion we were having earlier.
What, the fact that the Yeti didn't immediately eat Luke Skywalker?
Oh, I'm actually thinking of the Alabama brand stuff that was happening after Leia was trying to make Han jealous.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That's not really a plot hole as much as it's just really gross.
Oh, no, it is a plot hole, and you know why?
Why?
Somehow I've always known. What?
Oh,
yeah.
What? Wait. You're right.
Okay, that's just bad writing. And that's that's one of the things
10-year-old Mike was like,
wait
a minute.
That right there was like George Lucas started writing the scene, and then like towards the latter half, it was like, I'm bored. Let's just get this over with. She's always known. It's nice and neat. Luke walks out. All right, let's get back to something I care about. But definitely. So
like Ewoks to make money.
Oh man,
I'm not bitter.
We've probably talked. Everyone's talked about Ewoks. Everyone hates Ewoks.
We don't need to go there.
No, Nick, do you like Ewoks?
No, God no.
That's all we need to know.
You stop liking Ewoks when you hit puberty. That's the rule.
Have you ever seen the How I Met Your Mother where he talks about the Ewok?
Ewok age divide?
Yeah, age divide. Nick, have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Basically, you can just tell how old somebody is by how much they despise Ewoks, which obviously it doesn't work because people like us that were born well after the movie hate them too.
Yeah.
But basically, like, if you can tell how old someone is because if they're the right age when that movie came out, they're like, Ewoks aren't that bad.
And then
cute.
nostalgia.
Yeah, and then nostalgia, and then he's like, oh, you're obviously young. Anyways, I mean, does sci-fi get a pass, though, do you guys think? Because, like, in a way?
Depends on what genre. To me.
That's true. And it depends on how futuristic it's supposed to be. Like, how far into the future.
And how haughty it presents itself.
Yeah.
I'll also argue that it gets a pass based on how fun it is to believe the big lie that they're trying to sell you.
True that. No, true that.
Right. That's definitely it. And see, and that's why I think strong characters are so important. Because if you care about the characters, then it really gives them leeway with, like, everything else.
Oh, yeah.
But when the movie is built on, this big twist or whatever this really far out there concept, and then that falls on its face, you're like, I don't care about any of this anymore. At least in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yes.
I concur.
I'm trying to think of a good example. I guess like you could go with Iron Man for that. Like we actually genuinely care about Tony Stark because he's played by a phenomenal actor.
Right.
Like we care about this story even though we've seen it before. We know what's going to happen. Like.
Oh yeah. Well, and if we're going to talk about infeasibility,
swallow the lie of the arc reactor, like being able to build it in a cave with a box of scraps.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So.
And the fact that his Iron Man suit fits everyone. By the way.
Yeah.
Like, he wouldn't sell the suit to the government, and apparently it's only designed to work with him, but, like, every time somebody needs his suit, it just attaches to them, and it fits them perfectly.
Oh, and then we also have the whole, I'm going to take apart a set of missile metal pieces, which, by the way, are not that thick, and it's going to make armor that prevents armor-piercing rounds and rocket launchers from killing you, which, no, it wouldn't.
Right.
Iron Man doesn't get out of the cave. And then, the terrorists like, well, that was a good idea. Oh, well.
And it's funny, too, because, like, with a movie like Iron Man, do you know what you say to people that you overhear talking about it like we are?
It's a movie!
Yeah, you slap them in the head, and you're like, did you have fun watching it? Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. But and then it's just funny, because, like, then Elysium, I couldn't do it. Like, I tried to, like, once I decided I didn't really like it that much, I was like, well, it was fun, right? And then I thought about it, I was like, honestly, no. I was being bludgeoned too much with social commentary.
Yeah, no, and you're at fault.
Not to keep picking on that movie, by the way. It's just the example I have in my head.
Yeah.
Like, and just to...
there's others, too.
Like, Elysium was like, they have this crazy technology and stuff like that, but we don't care because the movie wasn't that great. We didn't like it that much.
Right. Like, none of the characters were compelling.
We have Pacific Rim.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Ton robots and science that doesn't work really well, like pure titanium.
Yeah.
Titanium alloy and like having 50,000 motors running at X amount of horsepower.
Or the fact that we've forgotten what nuclear weapons are.
Horse powder? No, gee.
Yeah, or the fact that when they say that Gypsy is an analog, so
Yeah.
she'll run when the other newer ones won't, even though it fries all electronics, which obviously there's electronics.
In the reactor.
We don't care about any of that because we like gigantic robots punch gigantic monsters.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, by the way, Nick, you are in nuke school, correct?
Oh,
Yes.
this is very important, actually.
I don't know how deep into all the material you've gotten thus far.
Or
but,
are allowed to talk about, for that matter.
Yeah, I would say, how poorly are nuclear blasts and just nuclear energy and everything in general portrayed in movies?
Okay, have you ever heard the phrase "the reactor's gone critical"?
Yes.
And were people freaking out?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Well, the reactor spoiler is supposed to be critical. That's how we get power.
Yep.
Thing that I can tell you, it's really literally like the one thing that we haven't learned, but like all of our instructors have told us, holy crap, like the reactor's critical. Good job. Unless the reactor's not supposed to be running, then you freak out and be like, who the hell did this?
Who turned off our reactor supplying power to the whole city?
I believe what you guys would be more worried about would be a breach.
Yes.
That would
But
that
it's not
word.
like- in my particular field, since I'm a mechanic, like what we're worried about is steam in the people space.
Well,
Or even poop in the people space.
It's just
but
so
that's-
mundane, even though it's way more dangerous.
What was that?
It's just somewhat. It's like the real stuff, even though it's very, very deadly and important. Like people are paid to make sure this stuff doesn't happen. It's just so boring.
Yeah, like, and then you realize that it's 700 degree Fahrenheit steam traveling at supersonic speeds, and then you
like,
remember
okay,
why,
that does
like,
sound like a danger.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think the reason the whole nuclear reactor going critical works is because we picture it like a bomb, like the pressure mounting, or you know what I mean. I mean,
yes,
nuclear blasts don't operate like just TNT, do they?
It's.
I mean, obviously, I don't know but we just picture it like the more the pressure builds, oh, it's gonna blow. Like
The danger about a nuclear power plant is not an explosion most of the time. And correct me, Nick, you were definitely the expert on this.
it's just leaking out, right? Like
radiation or other kinds of.
Now, getting the material that then you can turn into a bomb is a problem.
Right.
But there's a whole set of chemical reactions that the bomb has to have. That's why we've had bombs that have dropped and not blown up. Thank God for North Carolina.
Really?
Oh yeah, you didn't hear about that?
There's
No, I did not
it's
hear
like
about
someone loaded nukes onto a plane on accident and then dropped them on accident.
The plane crashed and the nuke hit the
Yes.
ground and didn't go off, and it should have.
that. Wow. Hey, what are the?
Oh no, it was primed to go, and
it'd be pretty bad if you could just drop it from a plane. Like, granted, crash a plane into something you expect to blow up, but it'd be pretty bad if we could just drop a nuclear weapon. Like, oh shit, it fell off the shelf, and
oh no, see the
Sure.
information I got from and I'm citing Discovery Channel, which then again might be my problem here. They were saying that by error of one of the technicians, it was primed to go when the plane crashed. So it was somebody messed up, but then luckily the technology messed up on top of that.
So
yeah, okay, I can see where you're going with that, but like, okay, we're like way off topic.
Yeah,
well, I was
we're-
gonna say, can I take it into another podcast territory right now?
Yes.
Into our conspiracy theory.
Oh,
Doesn't it? That sounds like terrorists loaded up onto a plane, and then the government brought the plane down.
It was the Cold War. Let's be honest.
It doesn't sound like, oh, we accidentally put these nukes onto a plane. It's like, hey, how do you accidentally get a hold of nukes?
Well, if I remember correctly, this
Or were
one-
they in boxes not labeled nuke?
Well, no, this time the nukes weren't loaded accidentally. The problem was that the plane crashed. Like, the plane was supposed to have the nukes. We accidentally had nukes sitting in a plane open at an Air Force base recently. That's a totally different incident.
Are you telling me we would just throw around our nukes willy-nilly?
Although that wasn't Nick's branch, that was the Air Force.
Yeah, that was the Air Force.
These guys are morons over there at the Air Force.
Don't let them run the reactors.
The flyboys are airheads, I tell you what.
Well, to be fair, it's a lot harder to misplace a submarine. Cough, cough, Red October.
Like, there's not enough oxygen getting to their brain way up there or something. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, join the Navy, guys. Quick ad campaign.
Yep.
Where the heck were we? talking about how realistic does sci-fi need to be, and just how wrong everything concerning nuclear anything is when it comes to movies.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to something like Pacific Rim, it, from the get-go, was so stupid intentionally that it's like, I didn't care that they whip out, spoilers alert, a sword in the last, third of the movie that just rapes
That clearly
everything.
worked better than any of the guns they had.
And you're like, why did you not just lead with the sword?
It's more honorable to fight with the fisticuffs.
Yeah, right? Why would you punch something in the head when you could stab it through its brain?
Or better yet, why are we...
brain, then we wouldn't have gotten the whole rocket punch sequence.
Yeah,
right, it makes sense from, I want to make something that looks cool, and the plot doesn't matter. And, that's why I tell people, I'm like, that movie has a huge plot hole in terms of they could have been using swords, and they did in the whole movie, but I really, it doesn't ruin it or anything. It doesn't, take away.
You're telling me we take the time to build it. You know what? I'm stopping right there.
Right?
We're done. I'm not
I
going.
look at you and say, Mike, do you think that movie ever meant to be taken seriously?
No, and this is why I stop and go, that's it.
Right.
No more. But that kind of we probably should just flush out all the different types that we've got, because sci-fi is not, you say sci-fi, but that's like saying it's a sport.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was going to say, fair enough. It seems like it definitely, how realistic it needs to be definitely depends on what type of science fiction it is.
I mean, the one that everybody thinks of first, thanks to Star Wars being so huge, is the space opera.
Yeah, because the space opera, that's essentially what Guardians... Guardians of the Galaxy was very Star Wars-y in that regard.
Guardians was a love story to both space opera, cyberpunk, and the Western and fantasy kind of... It was very meta. It was intentionally so.
I more think of, Guardians of the Galaxy as a space Western, almost.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
It had parts of all of them. Which I guess leads to another point. These are not hard set in stone boxes.
Right.
There's a lot of fluid going between these things. That's kind of gross. Anyways.
Space fluid.
That's what happens when an EMT gets to make jokes.
Quit swapping fluids. So you have the space opera, just big, grand, over the top. It's more about the adventure.
All about the orchestra.
Right. Then on the complete opposite of the spectrum, you have what you guys coined, or you might not have coined it, but you termed hard sci.
Yes, hard sci-fi.
Yes.
What Elysium was trying to be, what The Matrix was for a great extent.
Until you really think about it.
Well, yeah, there's a whole other... Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some other recent hard science fiction. Gravity, I guess, would be considered that?
Gravity is. Gravity fails in some ways, but only because it's grounded in what they refer to as reality.
Right.
But then again, it was a good movie. It was excellent.
Yeah. And certain things...
Inception?
Inception, okay.
I expect...
I don't know if that would be really hard.
I would expect Interstellar to be, too. The only reason the reason I say Inception is hard is because it's dwelling in a place where there are no parameters which we can use to gauge. We don't know that much about how dreams actually work in the brain.
Or if you'd be able to do, or if shape dreaming is an actual plausible thing, but...
Yeah. Well, that's because we're not allowed to cut open people's brains while they're dreaming.
Then I think it falls more into a different genre we discussed, which is, I guess we didn't really know what to call it, but kind of futurist or cerebral sci-fi, kind of where it takes place 20 minutes in the future. Is that what the trope is? I think it's something like that.
Yeah,
yeah,
20 minutes right. So it looks like modern day for the most part,
but it's still...
But there's technology is advanced enough to where it's for instance, we can picture an Iron Man, his phone. Or anytime
or Jarvis in general.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Hologram computer.
Like AI with a personality. We don't really have that now, but we can picture that happening not too far in the future. So for the most part, it's modern day with a twist.
Yeah.
So that's where I put Inception, because everything about that movie pretty much was modern day, the weaponry they were using in the dreams. Even though if it's in a dream, couldn't you just dream up an awesome laser gun or something?
Yeah,
anyways,
a tank,
a Balrog.
Yeah, right.
You shall not pass.
Yeah, right. If you knew you were in if you knew you were in a dream, yeah, couldn't you summon a tank? I don't know, whatever. So
Goku, go ahead.
I'm trying to think of some other things along that vein where it's a twist.
There's iRobot comes to mind for the futurist Cerebral. Very much normal normal life, just everything's shiny, cars are automated, robots are a thing. Now, if that's the politics, it just kind of jumps forward.
Right.
And there's actually a couple that really handle that pretty well. But as I said, these things are fluid, you know, and Futurist very often kind of delves into the next one that we so much love, or at least I shouldn't say I love, the apocalyptic dystopian, the Fallout.
Right.
Oh,
Nick,
yes.
you love that. Everyone loves that. I'm trying to think.
Ooh, question.
What movie falls in that?
What does a zombie movie or film or property have to do to be considered dystopian sci-fi?
See, that's a good question. I don't think we've really seen many like sci-fi zombie movies. There was one, I don't remember the name of it, but like I guess there's like astronauts on Mars and they find like some kind of Martian life that turns them into zombies.
Mm-hmm. A Dead Space.
I guess that might count.
Yeah,
but
Dead Space is actually a really good example.
Also Dead Space, yes.
Even though, they're not true zombies, but
And you know what?
The same.
Do the Resident Evil things count? I mean, not the movies. I'll be very clear, not the movies. I'm talking about
That's a good question.
video game property. The good
Is it
video game
science
property.
fiction?
Is it sci-fi? Because it is a virus.
Right.
And it does Walking Dead. Harder to sell, yes, I give you. But Walking Dead is from a virus. There are quote-unquote scientific reasons why this is happening. The whole point is to get, what's-his-face, to Washington, D.C. to cure this disease.
Right. It's like it takes science and then puts its own twist where it's like, okay, this virus is this made-up thing.
Yeah.
I guess.
I think like when I think sci-fi, I don't think a bunch of guys
Walking.
hiding zombies in like the Georgia backwoods. Like,
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, let's take Predator.
Is Georgia backwoods? Is that a different subgenre of science fiction?
Yeah.
yeah, Georgia backwoods sci-fi.
George, oh, God. You know what?
Playing some rad
what is
synths
it?
on their
Rule
future
63?
bandos.
What?
What was it, Rule 63 somewhere?
Somewhere. If it can happen, it's happening
Yeah.
somewhere.
I mean, I don't actually think Walking Dead counts as sci-fi, but actually that raises another question. How many spoonfuls of new tech does it take before you finally get over the hump?
Right. Well, who brought up Predator just now?
I did.
Because to me,
Well,
Predator... The Predator... Like, nothing else about that movie other than the Predator makes it sci-fi, but the Predator does.
I mean, and that's okay, but then they're like, that's a monster film. I'm like, with an alien with unbelievable technology.
No, that's definitely...
Yeah,
science
that's
fiction.
why I'm hesitant to say like. That's why I'd be hesitant to say like I Am Legend would probably fall in that same category as like The Walking Dead. Like if you could just say like a natural disaster caused it, or
Yeah, interesting.
not to because I don't want to touch religion at all in this one, but like if you could say like, oh, God did it, or like some celestial being did it, or like
Well, then we get to stuff like Lovecraft. You know, that kind of stuff really. Oh, we forgot that. Although that actually that falls under what I refer to as Wackadoo, but we'll get to that in a bit. As much as I love Lovecraft, that is Wackadoo.
Yeah,
I feel
that is hard because there's I feel like when we think of science fiction, we're thinking of the science that we're fictionalizing being physics.
Mm-hmm.
Because just that's naturally what it falls under, to fly out into the stars.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, there's biology.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's like Killer Plants, those Little Shop of Horrors, is that a science
right,
fiction?
yeah.
So I don't know.
well, that's like asking if The Happening is science fiction as well.
It's like asking if The Happening is
We do
anything
not
other
refer
than
to that man or anything bad he has done.
Yeah, it's like, is The Happening even a movie? It shouldn't be. But do we consider it anything other than poop? For lack of a
exercise and frustration.
I mean, the short answer is no. The long answer is hell no.
With many L's, tack on like 5 extra L's.
Yeah, like. Okay, well, Nick, we're skipping over something that you love profoundly.
Oh, hit me with it.
A punk of the cyber variety.
Yes.
I want you to give it...
Cyberpunk is like interesting though because some of the things that we attribute with science fiction don't exist in cyberpunk, like say space travel or like maybe even like ridiculous technology. It's just cyberpunk typically refers to like the grid, if you will.
So is the Matrix cyberpunk, or is it dystopian?
Or is it both?
Both?
Well, that's the thing. So, which one would you sort it into? Because it clearly has punk, even like mainstream, like real world punk influences, like very much so.
I'll probably put that more into cyberpunk.
I can buy that. Because if you think about it, it really only gets, like, if you're just taking the first Matrix, it's not that apocalyptic. Like, it is, like, there's a couple scenes that do prove that it is. Like,
you mean they made other Matrix movies?
It's only dystopian in the backstory.
I was just say, if you take the second and third Matrix movies,
it shifts.
Which the third movie is definitely a dystopian wasteland.
Well, and is that why that kind of shifted away from... I mean, because I don't know about you. The longer the series went, the less I liked it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I feel like that's most internet consensus.
Because its strength was its cyberpunk aesthetic and kind of fun concept, and then once it got into... Like, the more you learned about the dystopian apocalyptic part, the less it made sense, in my opinion.
Yes, but it did have some really good, like, I guess expansion content in the Animatrix.
Right, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The Animatrix was very uneven, but there's like some really high points.
Again, the focus of those was more on the cyberpunk and not.
You're right.
Not the dystopian future, unless you count the one where it's about the second revolution, second Renaissance. I think it's called.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, actually, that takes away from my point. But I was going to say that everything inside the Matrix is awesome. Everything outside sucks. But the second Renaissance was outside the Matrix, and it was definitely really good. Even though we were talking about how stupid it'd be to blot out the sun, like they put a giant cloud around the entire Earth.
This is my one hipster moment I knew this from the get go. The moment they said that in that movie, I looked up and thought, all plants dead? No,
not worth it.
Bad idea.
We killed the robots. Wait, we've killed ourselves.
Well, no. You know what? But we killed all the plankton, which means we killed our oxygen.
Thought about it too long, Mike. Cyberpunk.
But Ed, how are they breathing right now?
Oh God,
thinking about it too
hard.
The
probability drive stalled.
Like with Cyberpunk, at least for the aesthetic wise, a big influence for like a big movie that has influenced that genre big time is Blade Runner.
Mm-hmm. The other movie Harrison Ford did.
Right. I need to rewatch it because I was doing something else while I was watching it. So maybe if you guys can explain to me, but that movie's biggest plot hole to me was the fact that the whole concept is that Blade Runners destroy these replicants, which are robots that look like humans that come to Earth because they're outlawed on Earth. So if you can't have replicants on Earth and you're only using them for outer space work, why do they need to look like people? See, I don't know if they ever explained that in the movie. I'm like, why make it look like a person if it's not allowed on Earth?
It's the uncanny valley. You don't want to make something that interacts with you on a personal level that looks like a robot, per se. But if it's somewhere in between, it's even creepier than if it was just a robot. So you have two options. You can make an R2-D2, or you can make a human-looking thing. Because I don't think something like C-3PO actually sells in real life. And again, I'm piggybacking off another thing that Extra Credits did. But I do buy that. The more human but not quite human you get, the creepier the thing is.
But like who
you
interacts
can see that in all
with
sorts of like horror movies as well. But even in I Am Legend, like the new robots, or not I Am Legend, iRobot.
Oh yeah, they're
like the new robots look super creepy
because they're not quite human.
But like it's just but I'm just saying like if. Who interacts with these robots for their intended purpose? Because they're used for like mining projects, blah 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 blah.
Well, they're used for mining. They're used for let's say not things I'd like to discuss about a robot. They're used for a lot of stuff.
Because they look like humans, Mike. Why do they need to look like humans? Would you do the thing from iRobot?
No.
Exactly. So that's just my only point. Is like I get it but they would be creepy. But if you're like a robot slaver in outer space making a mine an asteroid. You could just tell them, okay, it is weird because they're human-like, but they look like robots. But get over it, or else we'll find someone else to do this job.
Well, I think at the core of it, it is the assumption that the people making it were vain enough to go, okay, well, I'm just going to make
right.
Just like
and that's fair enough. I think that that is one of the points. Is like one of the doctors was like, I can, like he was a certain mad scientist, like I can, so I will.
We have the technology.
Anyways, that was just my feeling, and I feel like that movie is trying to have a little bit of social commentary. So
it does, and but it's generic. Yeah, and I like that.
While we're on the subject of like why reasoning. Like, how far do you guys think we need to go into, like, explaining sci-fi for it to be good? Or, depending on, like, where you are on the scale, because, you know,
what's the
that was
purpose?
a good point of, like, why do we do these kinds of things, and why does it work this particular way?
Right.
Well, what's the purpose? So, 'cause
I mean,
with Star Wars, I don't need to explain to you why a lightsaber works.
You're right.
It's a sword.
Yeah, it's so tough, because the thing is, it doesn't really ruin Blade Runner for me, because I think there's a lot of good things about that movie, and, like, the climax of that movie is amazing, and blah, blah, blah. So, it's really tough. It's sort of like, if the movie is good, even if something is unexplained, it's like, okay, but, I don't know.
Well, let's take iRobot for a second.
Like, if the movie is really good, based on other reasons, like, the music's good, or the effects are good, it, like, gives itself a lot of slack.
Yeah,
I guess, which isn't fair in a way. But
well, that kind of jumps back to our belief that, like, entertainment and media as a whole is a holistic experience.
Yeah,
you know. But that being said, looking at a movie like iRobot versus Elysium, both are tackling big ideas. The problem is iRobot is asking a question: What is sentience?
Right.
That's the core of it. Elysium is telling you something, which, if it does it compellingly, you come out feeling either empowered, outraged, or compelled. If it doesn't tell you correctly, or there's holes, we came out going, huh?
Yeah, right. Like, I get what it was trying to do, but no.
Yeah, and I think that's literally the exact words that came out of our mouths when we walked out of the theater. We were like,
yeah, right.
Nah. We're picking on Elysium. We gotta find another.
Yeah, I know. What's another movie
to pick on?
Yeah, well, like, what's another sci-fi movie that tries to shove something down your throat?
You know what?
No.
District 9.
No, The Matrix did, though. The third Matrix.
Oh,
the whole
yeah.
intro.
Oh, yeah.
The whole intro of The Matrix is just to prove that robots can love. If you think about it, he gets locked in that, like, purgatory or whatever it was, and then he meets a family of programs that are, like, rebel programs because they quit doing things because they loved each other.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, the humans and the robots work together to, like, because apparently robots can love, it turns out. And,
yeah,
and really and then you find out through the Animatrix that it was the humans that kind of, like, pushed the robots to the extremes they went to. So, and then they're like, oh, so maybe the bad guys are good guys, and everybody can love each other, and love can win.
Yeah. Except it went in such a roundabout. Like, you know, I'm in Phoenix, and I need to get to LA. But first, I'm going to drive all the way to Las Vegas, and then come back to LA. That's what we did with that.
Taking the long route, guys. Yeah, you're driving literally the wrong direction.
Oh. And then you brought up District 9, but I think District 9 might more be a commentary on apartheid.
No, it was entirely, and it did a very good job. Other than the fact that I don't think they should have put it in South Africa. If they were going to try to do that, they needed.
I think they did that because South Africa kind of already had those problems, so like it'd be believable to see that happen again. But it also like shows that people united against a common outsider.
Yeah, I guess and again, this is because District 9 is trying to engage our critical thinking skills. I don't think Britain let South Africa handle that. I don't think the United States or Russia or China let South Africa
that is kind of
handle
true. Alien
technology.
Everyone wants in on that.
UN is involved.
I guess it wasn't an invasion, but
well, the UN is involved, and this time the UN brought all the military. China, Russia, and the United States, because that's probably the one thing we're all going to agree on. Don't let them win.
So let's put it this way. The reason why you're not cutting District 9 that slack that you were cutting Star Wars is because it was trying to be serious.
Yes. It was an allegory, it was a metaphor, and it blatantly... And that's where the Johannesburg thing, I feel like, cuts itself short. We would have figured out that it was apartheid had it been in Greenwich, England, or in Russia, or in China, you know,
or had Park over LA.
Yeah, the same thing. We would have made the connections, but you beat us over the head by having a white Dutch Boer who is overtly, ignorantly racist,
right,
about stuff, you know,
right,
and
it's like if you're trying to tackle big themes, then give the audience credit to figure it out through your sophisticated telling of it.
Now, District 9 was a good film,
right,
and it was way better than Elysium because the parallel worked better,
right,
but.
Even though, you know, it's funny though, now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking about it, and District 9 I disliked for similar reasons.
It's just that
Because I'm not as crazy about that movie. It's like some people are like, that is the best sci-fi movie to come out in a while, and I'm like,
I was one of those people, and I still think that of that age it was.
Right.
But that's because it was fresh.
I guess we got to consider that Avatar was the other big sci-fi movie around that time. Okay, yes, it blows that away. That's not fair.
Well, but that's I feel like Avatar.
Does Avatar go in the Superman category? Like, it's just so bad that why would we even?
That's a hard one.
What do you think, Nick?
We're talking about Avatar by James Cameron or Avatar by M. Night Shyamalan?
We don't talk about the other.
Nick,
guy,
why would you slap us in the face?
We don't say that word.
That was not the thought in our minds.
That's not a real
now
thing.
We're thinking about that abysmal movie. No, Avatar by James Cameron, which I have not watched since theaters. I remember liking it, and then I saw it again, and I was like, and then once I was wowed by the effects. I was like, wait, that wasn't that good.
James Cameron is the equivalent, is the movie equivalent of a Dane Cook show. It's hilarious the first time. It's not funny after. It's awesome to watch a James Cameron movie the first time.
Except for Terminator 2, which is definitely
Ooh,
his
you know
best
what?
movie.
I forget about that.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
That's when he actually demonstrated some writing
That's
ability.
when it was actually good. And then didn't he make Aliens?
No. That was Ridley Scott.
I think Cameron made the second one.
Did
made
he?
the sequel, yeah. I mean, Ridley Scott, and him are friends, so, Ridley Scott was
Oh,
involved.
kind of like a Spielberg, Lucas deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I might be wrong about that. I don't know if Nick, can you confirm? Can you
Wait,
confirm?
for Aliens?
Didn't James Cameron direct one of them? I'm almost positive he did.
Yeah, James Cameron did direct Aliens.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So he's made 2 good movies. I don't know, it's rude to call any of his movies bad, because they're all visually, really good, but yeah. Is Titanic science fiction? No.
Okay, Titanic is the same category as I put Citizen Kane. The movie itself, not terrible bad. The problem is that everybody overhypes it, and you watch it and go, huh?
Yeah, the problem with, you could say this about any historical-based reenactment.
Yeah.
But, the problem with Titanic is that you go into it, and then you're like, okay, everyone in the Titanic died. 3 hours later, the boat crashes, everyone dies. 3 hours later, the boat crashes, and everyone dies. And you're like,
yeah.
Okay. And unless you're really into that love story, which I wasn't, you're like, what?
Well, I just gotten finished reading about the troubles in Ireland, and so watching British people shut Irish people in the cabins as the boat is sinking was traumatizing for me as a 10-year-old. I was like, no!
So, last couple categories we have. So, let's go category by category. Space opera really doesn't need to be realistic, I think we agree.
We all know.
Hard sci better be realistic, because that's the
Yeah.
whole point. Cyberpunk is somewhere in between, but I would say it doesn't.
It's more idealist.
Right.
What you want.
Dystopian, apocalyptic, what do you guys think?
Needs to be brutal. Needs to touch on
Just stay
fear.
consistent.
Yeah. You got to evoke the fear. You
it's
got to
all about
evoke the.
consistency as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this one all the way. Sci-Fi Western, which, we dabbled with it, because some of these movies are...
Like a space western.
Firefly.
Like Firefly, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Firefly. There's also, you could argue, Star Trek.
Yeah. In the frontier, pioneer, kind of attitude.
Yeah, in that kind of
exploration.
sense.
I guess, yeah, Star Trek is kind of like that.
Star Trek's straddles futurist, sci-fi, and a little bit of hard sci. I'll give it a little leeway there because it stays consistent with what the original Star Trek stayed consistent.
Right.
The longer you went, the harder it got because you have spectacle creep. Everybody's like, "Well, why is it more like Star Wars?" Well, because it's Star Trek. But anywho's, and then honestly, sci-fi fantasy kind of jumps in with Western too, in the sense that it's taking concepts from fantasy, swords,
and just play them a different setting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really doesn't need to be that realistic. The futuristic or cerebral sci-fi, the 20 Minutes to the Future, does.
Has to be.
It really, I guess, could depend. But
Looper.
See, Looper is tough because
That's tough. Time travel.
Yeah, right. It's exactly. I was just about to say that, Nick. Yeah, it's tough because it really doesn't make sense. But then again, it's time travel.
But their time travel actually.
It almost worked until the end.
To be honest, I don't even see any plot holes with how the ending happened because, no, actually I do. No, you're right, I do.
Yeah, because if he was never...
Spoilers.
No, we haven't even said anything yet, so it's fine. But no,
Yeah,
my previous statement stands. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and, okay, plot hole with the time travel in the the first looper that closes his contract.
Yeah.
Like, if that kind of stuff that they were doing to, like, if the kind of, like, things that are happening to the original guy or affecting the future guy kind of instantaneously, then how exactly does that work out time travel-wise?
See, and then it falls apart, but then you gotta say, but it's time travel. Because the rest of the movie was really fun.
Yeah.
And I actually liked the characters. Like, the little kid, like,
I love how
psychic
he snuck
dude.
in telekinesis, and it's like, yeah, this doesn't matter. And then, oh, whoops.
Yeah, like...
It does.
Like, I thought that was compelling, and kind of like, how do you deal with the genius of a kid who has a dark side? Like, that little kid is basically what Anakin Skywalker should have been. If you think about it.
Oh yeah, traumatized kid.
Because the whole problem...
Oh, we gotta be careful with that, Vin, because we'll go off on that one.
This will be quick. The whole problem with the prequel Star Wars is that Anakin was a perfectly happy, good little kid in the first movie, even though he was a slave, basically living on a desert planet with all the stuff he went through. And then all of a sudden
he could have shown a sadistic streak so easily. And one we could
He
have
should've-
empathized with.
Right, and he should have been, like, using the Force to, like, cheat people out and stuff, and just not even realize what he's doing is wrong because he's a kid. And
not
he's
only that,
jaded.
He needs to survive.
Yeah, right.
He's trying to feed his sick or decrepit or beaten mother,
Right.
which we didn't. I mean, anyways.
See, and then here, therein lies, like, the problem with the prequel Star Wars, because it's a space opera, we don't really care about the midichlorians. Obviously, it's annoying, but
Until you brought it up.
that didn't ruin the movie. It was the bad characters and writing and, like, story.
Yeah. Because that got us thinking.
Right. So, anything else in terms of subgenres that we haven't covered, guys?
There's kind of an umbrella term, and this will be brief just because we don't have enough time to cover them. I refer to as Wackadoo, and that is trippy sci-fi. Eraserhead, Lovecraft.
Be careful, Nick. You love Lovecraft, don't you?
Oh, I wouldn't really put Lovecraft under sci-fi. It's more of a gothic horror kind of thing.
It's more of a horror.
It's more of a horror.
But he dwells into he goes
because
into
isn't his stuff like alternate dimensions? I thought
he does physics and cosmic entities. So I do feel it strays into sci-fi a little bit.
Well, he does cover his own ass by saying that we couldn't possibly comprehend the physics because it breaks reality.
Exactly. So, but then again, but how often is that the excuse for all of his other? I mean, so, but definitely stuff that happens, or like Clockwork Orange, things that are in the future, dystopian. I mean, the problem with Wackadoo is it takes pieces of everything, and then just adds some LSD, and you have.
Well, yeah, but I feel like stuff like that. It's not really about the story as much as the experience.
Exactly, and so
it might actually get a pass in some ways.
It does. Oh no, and there's still great experiences. I don't like Clockwork Orange because it gives me nightmares, but it doesn't mean it's not a good movie.
I've never seen it. I've heard it's pretty disturbing.
That's
That's typical, I guess.
Let's just say that I looked at milk differently after that. But yeah.
So guys, anything else that needs to be stated?
I don't know if you guys have read. I know that Michael's probably read it. I don't know if Kev's read it, but if you've read Brave New World, would you classify that as sci-fi?
I haven't read it. Is it?
Yes, there's some weird pseudoscience at the beginning when they explain like the creation of different worker classes.
Or what about The Giver?
Time
too?
was good science, but it's been misconstrued since then.
Well, I mean, I'd say yes. I'd say conditional yes.
Is Utopian a different genre?
Obviously,
they're broken utopias 100% of the time.
I have yet to see an actual utopian.
It's always dystopian
Sci-fi.
that looks utopian. Yeah.
It's interesting too because there's a whole level of.
Well, actually, you could say that it's not sci-fi just because it doesn't really. The technology's not really.
It uses science fiction as a springboard to get to where it wants to go. It's not in and of itself sci-fi.
So, how important is the technology of sci-fi then? Like, would you give it more, like second billing next to the characters, or would you say it's is important for the setting, or?
It's so hard.
I'm gonna go ahead. Who was it? Clinton or Nixon that said, for pornography, you know it when you see it. I stand by the same thing with sci-fi. You know it when you see it.
I think, honestly, that's kind of a good way to put it, and I think that's why sci-fi is so cool. And I think that's why I think nobody, like, there's obvious space stuff is obviously sci-fi, like the stereotypical way. Mm. But anybody who goes, I'm not into sci-fi, are probably lying, because you could list off so many different movies that are basically different genres other than they do mess with the things that we know of science.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it
but
is
still
sci-fi.
to this day, your layperson doesn't think of movies
Like-
like they don't think of Iron Man as sci-fi when
Right.
clearly it is
Yeah.
sci-fi superhero dumb.
Right.
Or looking
Right.
at
I mean, I guess superhero is a subgenre of sci-fi.
yeah, or iRobot or Bicentennial Man,
Right.
Robin Williams, rest in
Right.
peace, dude.
Because not every science fiction, some science fiction movies are more like thrillers, some are more, like, it's not everything's big battles out in space.
some of it's ephemeral.
And not everything's about aliens,
Yeah,
so,
I
don't
mean
know.
it's one of those things where
It almost is all-encompassing. It's really vague. I don't know. It's hard.
it permeates,
Yeah.
but that's why we like it.
I think would you guys say it's the most popular genre at this point, at least in movie making? Other than, like, rom-coms?
I have rom-coms up there.
I would say that still
Okay, let's put it this way. Stuff that people make that are trying to be artists and not...
you know what? I still
Although, I don't know, because superhero movies are for money, too. I was going to say rom-coms are usually blatantly for money, but I guess superhero movies are, too. But we were talking about this. The reason superhero movies have gotten good is because they understood that they make money when they let people that love the property make them. So it is for art, though. Because, like, the people that make Captain America or whatever are taking it seriously.
Well, it's just like you look at the people they cast to direct the original Batman movies, Green Lantern.
Yeah, Tim Burton, he didn't... The whole reason the old Batman movies stink is because Tim Burton clearly doesn't like the Batman character that much. He was more fascinated with everybody else. It's like... I don't know if Nolan ever...
And we don't bring up Schumacher.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that, but let's not. We'll be here all day arguing whether or not it's a valid way to take the character.
Bat nipples. No.
Yeah. But
Short answer. No,
I
no,
feel
it's
like
not.
I feel like science fiction though is definitely one of the main genres, let's just say, that really inspire artists, I guess.
Because
I think it's also like, just from a writing perspective, it's probably harder to write yourself into a corner with sci-fi.
Right, because there are so many avenues and just...
for some reason, you give yourself this confidence that most people, like, I know a lot of people who say, oh, I'd love to write a fantasy thing, but I'm afraid it would sound stupid. So you switch magic for science, and somehow it's more acceptable.
Yeah, right.
I guess this is where scientists like myself, we laugh at that. Because I don't know very many scientists who aren't diehard fantasy nerds, too.
Right.
And sci-fi nerds. And when we see a person who only is a sci-fi, and will very clearly tell you it's only a sci-fi nerd, we start laughing. Because in terms of tropes, you're no different at all.
That's why we have sci-fi fantasy as a genre.
Yeah. 10% of our brain sounds as stupid and illogical to me as Expelliarmus. It does. It's the same.
That's true. Is Limitless a science
yeah,
fiction?
That whole film.
Yeah.
Although
I don't even
Limitless was
know
better
how
than the
that's
premise of
going.
Lucy.
Yeah,
We're
I
not
was
going
gonna
to go
say
there.
somehow they thought Limitless was good enough that they should rip it off and make it even dumber for Lucy.
And they took an inherently good manga and anime series and went, you know what, we're going to say it's based off of this.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, Nick, we're gonna give you the last word. Anything you got to get off your chest before we part ways?
I think Batman and Robin is the best Batman movie ever made.
Clearly, you're lying.
He says this across the country for good reason.
Unless you're saying it ironically, you take it back.
Better have some glasses and a scarf
Yeah,
on right now.
I do take that back, but no, I think that one of the reasons that sci-fi is becoming more popular is because it's not as expensive to make anymore.
That's
I mean,
true.
it's like, we're not talking about B-movie sci-fi type, or like your
But
part
We
of
totally
a,
spaced out on that genre.
of a thing, but like,
no doubt it's easier with
I
computers.
think that, with the technology and just the filmmaking techniques that they've come up with, it is being easier to make sci-fi movies. So I do like that they're more popular now. But I think that just as like a springboard for inspiration, sci-fi works. Like, that's part of why it's important to have.
Right. I definitely, and it is fun because, I mean, in all honesty, science fiction will fuel future science. Because all of a sudden we're like, wait, is that possible?
How many good ideas?
Yeah, right. And then they start investigating it, and hopefully my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter is going to have a lightsaber in real life, and hopefully she doesn't come back in time to sleep with me.
May the force be with you.
And on that note, we will call it a day. Nick, thank you for being on the show. Good luck.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, absolutely.
No
Good
worries,
luck
man.
in Nuke School.
Thanks.
And whatever the next big science fiction movie is, maybe we'll have you back on. We'll like break it down.
Nice.
So whether
Yes.
I think what was it called? What's the new Nolan movie?
Interstellar.
I think Interstellar would be a good one.
Oh, yeah.
But who knows? Maybe something will come out.
Wait, he's
before
making a
then.
sci-fi movie now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you not heard about Interstellar?
No, I haven't heard anything about it.
Quick rundown.
Do you internet?
just hey, he's actually doing stuff with his life other than going on the internet. Quick breakdown. It has Matthew McConaughey, which is a lot better than it used to sound. And
He's an actual actor now.
Earth is like out of resources or whatever, and so they're trying to fly through a black hole to see where it'll take them to see if they can find life not on Earth. So
Interesting.
if Christopher Nolan and flying through black holes doesn't excite you, I don't know what does. Being that I know you like his movies.
I like the sound of it.
And that seems like a movie that we can really nitpick. Because it probably will have the whole social comedy.
A worthy opponent.
Yeah, right.
And Mr. Nolan.
So, who knows? Maybe we'll do that, maybe we won't. But, Nick, thank you for coming on the show.
Omorigato.
Mike Jamison.
Like, comment, subscribe, let us know what's up. And thank you for listening.
We have a liftoff.